Baruch Haba B'Shem Hashem, B'Shem Irgun Shir Torah. I'd like to welcome everyone to today's shir from Harav Yaakov Smith Shlita on honoring parents at what cost. I have the great sister sponsoring a shir called Irgun Shir Heter 718-851-8651 or email ist@yeshivanet.com. Harav Smith.
Kibud Av is a mitzvah that's always challenging. Parents have needs, and the children, who by then could be grandparents, even great-grandparents, have their own needs. And I want to focus on a sugya that's very much negeya. When it's challenging for a child to help his parent, the parent calls him, he's at work, does he have to close his business to run to help his parent? When Kibud Av interferes with shalom bayis, and when it interferes with learning time. But basically, as we'll see, the common denominator is what's the extent of the chiyuv of Kibud Av? How much does one have to give? Begashmius, beruchnius, time, learning, money. Is there a maximum? Now, I'll just mention once, I'll be bayis meido. When I say the word child, I don't mean a young child. As long as we're zeicha to have a parent, we're still a child. And someone told me he met a yid 101 years old. A very sharp yid. The yid says, "Was mach mein Beitchik?" So his Beitchik happened to be close to 80. So we're still Beitchik if we have two parents. So when I say child, I mean even a great-grandparent who has a parent. So the question really is, what is the extent of the mitzvah of Kibud Av? So what comes to mind is the Mishnah, the famous halacha, it's in Shulchan Aruch as well, Tavkuf Nun Vav, that for a mitzvah, the Raisa, you have to be willing to give a chaimish of your nechasim to do. But we know, regarding Ben Adam L'Chaveiroi, there's probably less of a chiyuv. Even though Ben Adam L'Chaveiroi is the aside of our Yiddishkeit, V'after Yach Kamoicha, but Minei Ubei, we know the word Kamoicha is Lav Dafka, Chayecha Koidman. The Mishnah says in Bava Metzia, Daf Lamed Gimel, the Gemara says in Bava Metzia Lamed Gimel, and this is Gepaski in the Chayshemish, beginning of Reish Samach Dalid, if you see an Aveda that belongs to you, or it's someone else's Aveda, and you only can do one, you go first, Chayecha Koidman. So basically, Be'erach, I'm going to say, Kibud Kvoid Chaveiroi, you have to do. But you don't have to give your own money for someone else. Of course you have to give up money when it comes to tzedakah, achnosis orchim. But the basic chiluk, the way the Paiskim point out, is for a ben adam l'hamokayim, you have to be willing to give up a chaimish of your nechasim. Ben adam chaveiroi, as much as you could do. Now the question is, what is the nature of the chiyuv of Kibud Av? Is it ben adam l'hamokayim? Then you have to give up a chaimish. If it's ben adam l'chaveiroi, it's probably less. So we'll say to this, bayis aim ekra, bayis aim svara, that it's at least ben adam l'hamokayim. I mean, just that itself, that we find on the Aseres Hadibris, on the side of ben adam l'hamokayim, the mitzvah of Kibud Av, says a lot about Kibud Av, but it's more than that. The Gemara in Kedushin Daf Lamed Amud Beis, the Gemara says in a shocking statement based on Psukim, Hishva Kosiv Kibud Av Ha'aim L'chvayit HaMokayim. The Gemara has a pasuk. Hishva Kosiv Moiras Av Ha'aim Moiras HaMokayim Ish Imav Av Tirou Hashem Olekech Tira. I mean, that alone is startling. The Torah HaKadosh equates Kibud Av with Kvayit HaMokayim. But it's more than that. The Gemara Taka says, if you have covet for parents, Ki'ilu Darti Beineihem V'Kibduni. Mechaber a parent is Mechaber a Shechina. Eikim B'Kam Shechina, the Gemara says. But there's even more than that. And that's a very important Yishalmi for our Sugya. In Kedushin Aleph Zayin, Godlu Kibud Av Ha'aim. That's the most important halacha. How big Kibud Av Ha'aim is. Shedifu HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yosem Ichvaydei. Not just Hishva, like the Bavli says, but a difu, the Rebbeinu Shalom made more of a chiyuv Kibud Av than his own kavod. Why? So Tishalmi, it's pashut. Kabir asevicha v'esimecha, it seems like the chiyuv is unconditional, unlimited. When it comes to Kvayit HaMokayim, Kabir es Hashem Mohinecha, zok the pasuk. If you don't have, you're not mechuyev. But Kabir asevicha, zok the Yishalmi, bein yeshlai, bein einlai, it's so much of a chiyuv, and we quote the Lashon the Yishalmi, afilu im mesavev ala psachim, which we know as machz ala psachim. Kibud Av Ha'aim is a greater chiyuv than Kvoid HaMokayim. It's even machz ala psachim. Now this is a direct hit on our chakira. There is no maximum to Kibud Av ha'em. And we'll soon see this is quoted in Yoreh Deah and Shulchan Aruch. But there's even more than this. The Sefer Chasidim in Siman Shem Mem one of the Gedolei Balei HaTois Yehuda Chosid, he wonders about Pshat and Pasuk. And remember, when we learn Parshas Toldos next year, remember this is Pshat and the Pasuk. V'yoyme Esav Hine Anoichi Hoylech Lamas V'lamas El Li B'chayre. Esav says he's dying. Now we don't find in the Chumash that he had a terminal illness and he was dying. What does that mean? Why was he dying? Zokti the Sefer Chasidim. If you ever wondered why did the Rebbeinu Shalom give Bnei Esav free reign to control us, to torture us, to destroy us, and beginning with Amalek, the Romans, the Greeks, the Germans, and all the Tzorah Yehudim in between, all those that are Bnei Esav, they did so much damage. Why did Rebbeinu Shalom allow Bnei Esav to do this? It's not a Hefgewelt. Zokti Sefer Chasidim, you know why? Because Esav went constantly with Mesiras Nefesh at Kibud Av. Because hunting for his father's needs is dangerous. Hunting is a suicide mission. And I must tell you, the Bihud and Tinyani Ardea Simon Yud says that hunting as a sport is asa because of sakana, because even Esav, who was Ishay Deyet Sayed, confessed that it's dangerous. And here Esav went, I don't know if daily, but constantly on a suicide mission to be Moisei Nefesh for his parent. And if you want to know why the Rebbeinu Shalom gave Bnei Esav this unusual opportunity to control Klal Yisrael, I mean, make a cheshbon. Esav was born the year 2108, and now we're holding more than 3,500 years later. And Esav's children are living on the schus of Kibud Av that Esav did with Mesiras Nefesh. Unbelievable. Look what Esav, that bandit, what he was Moisei Nefesh for his parent. Do you think he would ask a child, do you have to give a chaimish or not? He gave up his life for his father. But it doesn't end there. Zok Sefer Chasidim, all in the same shtickle. And Yosef HaTzadik learned from his uncle Esav how to do Kibud Av. Because you ever wonder, again, another Pashup shot in the Pasuk. Parshas Vayeshev, Yaakov innocently says, hey Yosef, check out your brothers, how they're doing. Now Yaakov didn't know what was going on. But Yosef knew he's walking into a lion's den. So what was Yosef's heter to go visit his brothers? Zok to Sefer Chasidim, he learned from Uncle Esav, Madaf Moisei Nefesh Zayin for Atata. But listen to the conclusion. Kol ze nichtav laidia liyisrael eich litroyach de lahavi panasa laviyim veich yizhirim lasais mitzvahs aviyim. Now I'm not going to say Kibud Av zerg v'yavar, but ad heichan Kibud Av ha'em or godlu Kibud Av ha'em, we see Esav's constant Mesiras Nefesh, and Yosef learned. But there's another gem, and that is a Gemara Kedusha that we all know. Ad heichan Kibud Av ha'em amalem tzuru ma'asa akum echad ba'ashkolaim v'dam benesina shmai. And the famous story, he gave up shishim riboy not to wake up his father. Now his father obviously wasn't all there, as we'll soon see. But it's interesting. Who are the experts in Kibud Av? Who was the Kezerah Eva Kadesh? Two Goyim, Esav and Dama. It's felt nicht heroes by Yidden. But the message is Goyim without Aseres HaDibros, without a pasuk, a Moisei Nefesh. So I think we're comfortable to say that there's enough rayas that Kibud Av is more than Kvoid HaMokeh. Bayis aim a svara. What is the understanding of Kibud Av? You know, I tell the Baruch, if I ask you one word to describe yourself, what word would you choose? So they would say maybe godless, something greatness. But you know, Chazal touched up what a child is. A child could be as old as he is, but he has a parent. We say in the Haggadah, Amaleinu Elu Habonim. A child, by definition, is a product of his parents, non-stop, forever amelus. Zok the chinuch in Mitzvah Lamed Gimel. That's the yisoid of Kibud Av. Sheyakir v'yigam l'ches l'misha asa imay toiva. Because don't forget, Zok the chinuch, parents gave a child everything. And at least it's understandable. Be'emes roy loy lasais lem kol kavod v'chol toyelas. Kibud Av is like, some people say it's payback. And it's not a bad word to use. The Chai Adam in Samach Zayin Aleph says if a child is not Makir Toiv, he's a Rasha. What's that? Is it Rasha? Pashut. Loi v'Rasha, v'loi Yishalim. And Be'emes, it's not his Chiddush. The Yishalmi in the beginning of Peah says Kibud Av is a Priyas Chayv. It's Makir Toiv, but it's better than Makir Toiv. See, in the Goyish world, you repay goodness. But that would be Hashlamas HaToiv. Why did the Chinuch use a lashon Makir Toiv? Because a child could live 100 years. He'll never be able to repay parents. Not shaykh. A lifetime of devotion. At least be Makir Toiv. At least recognize. So here we have Iboy Yisayim B'Kra, Iboy Yisayim B'Svara. The Kibud Av is more than Kvayd HaMakom, and there's no limit. But the Pelan is Gava, the Tzarachi and Godel is a Gemara Kedushin. Zokti Gemara, this is the beginning of Lamed Beis, Iboilu Mishel Mi. A child has to give his parents something, who foots the bill? So it's a Machlaikis, and the Gemara Paskins, and that's what Taisus quotes as She'iltis in Parashas Yisrael, we Paskin Mishel Av. Tati, you want me to buy something? Certainly, I'll be my pleasure. Could I have your credit card? That's a Gemara. That's Mishel Av. So it's not unconditional. Maybe it's not even a Chaimish. Now how do we reconcile? But the emes we see it Minei Ubei. Because in the Mishnah in Bava Metzia Lamed Gimel, about priorities and Avedis, the Mishnah speaks about our Shaila. Avedasai Avedas Aviv, Avedasai Kaidemes. So it seems to be just like Ben Adam Lachaverei. So now we are thoroughly confused. What is the identity of the mitzvah of Kibud Av? So Baruch Hashem Taisus clarifies it and gives us a tremendous guidance in halacha. Zok Taisus Daf Lamed Beis, based on a she'iltis, if the father has money and he needs something, you could say, I'll be my pleasure, could I use your credit card? But let's say the father doesn't have, Nebuchadnezzar doesn't have, and he really doesn't have, then the Yishalmi is correct that afilu machzal psachim. And the Taisus quotes 3 Yerushalmis, but at the end he quotes our Yerushalmi. That pshat in the Yerushalmi hadifu akasav is when the parent don't have. And then it's yuachiv unconditionally, even to go collecting. Now the emes is that there's a little of a question. What does it mean if the father doesn't have, the son is mechuyev? But I thought the mitzvah of Kibud Av is Mishel Av. What changed? So Pashit, and that's the way it's mashma in the she'iltis. You look at the lashon, tak enechanami. There's no chiyuv Kibud Av from your own money, but now it's a chiyuv tzedakah. Ein law is a chiyuv tzedakah. That's the lashon of the she'iltis. But it could be. We'll say, wait a minute, that's not logical. If the father could afford it, then use his money. If not, that's part of Kibud Av. And you look at the Mechaba in Yeridei Reish Mem Sifei, it's Kamat Mefurish. The Mechaba holds that if the parent doesn't have what to pay for, you have to use it, and that's part of Kibud Av. It's the plan B for Kibud Av. But the Ramah is Kamat Mefurish. The Ein Chayiv Litnai, Rak Mashem Mechuyev Litnai L'Tzedakah. So it's a machlaikis, what's the nature of the Chayiv Ein Lai? And also it's a little of a machlaikis what it means Machzal Psachim. You look in the Paiskim. But one thing I will tell you, no doubt about it, the chiyuv of Kibud Av surpasses both Ben Adam L'Chaverei and Ben Adam L'Makom when there's Ein Lai. But one question we have to clarify, and then we're going to apply this L'Maisa. And that is, how do we understand the story of Dama ben Asina? He gave up Shishim Riboy. I thought Mishel Av. So you might say, what do you mean? You asked the Kash on Dama? He was a guy. He didn't know learn Yeridei. But it's not true. The Gemara says, Ad heichan Kibud Av tzu'uru ma'asa akum echad. You're learning it from Dama. So listen to a few words of the Ran, the back of the Gemara. And it's not only the Ran, the Ritva, the Rajba, and other Rishonim say this. The Ran asks this kasha. Why is Dama ben Sina the prototype lesson? It's not even true. So no, it is true. To be mechaber a parent is Mishel Av. Now, this is an unbelievable concept. He's not torturing his parent. Waking up the father is considered mitzayir a parent. And for that, you have to give up kol mamoinai. What an incredible gadlu kibud av. To wake up a parent, you have to give up kol mamoinai. Now we would add, I don't know his yichus, Dama's yichus, but probably he was from Bnei Esav. Oy bazo, he had this in his genes. Because Re'eza Pella, Esav was this unstoppable mansa, that he did the Gimel Chamuras on Bar Mitzvah Day, and he was Poiches v'Haylach, Hayedua, nothing stopped him. But Re'eza Pella, in the darkest moment of Esav's life, there's one thing that stopped him. What was Esav's darkest moment? When he lost the brachas. He knew it. Like Yitzhak tzaka gedaylu umar ad ma'oi, the pasuk says. So killing the perpetrator, killing Yaakov was no big deal. But it's wrong. Yikvi me'eval avi v'harges Yaakov achi. He stopped in his tracks. He didn't let out his anger because maybe he's going to cause his father agmas nefesh. Like Rashi says, Shlo Yitzayir es Abba. If he kills Yaakov, Yitzchak will feel bad. Now, look at Esav in the darkest moment of his life. The concept of being Yitzayir a father was unfathomable. Now, we would rationalize, I'm not killing my father. It's a grama. And maybe boil a suvi adaita and let him learn Musa, not get angry. But look what Esav's incredible Kibud Av was. And maybe Dama learned from his Zayda Esav. To Mitzayir a parent, that's unthinkable. And we find this in halacha. We learn the halacha, but I don't know if we put two and two together. In Reish Mem, Shulchan Aruch Yerdei, Siv Ches, the Mechaber quotes Lashon of the Rambam, the famous Lashon, Ahechet Kibud Av Eim, even if the parent takes a kiss shel zehuvim and throws it into the ocean, lo yachlimam v'lo yitzayir b'fneim, v'lo yichais kinegdem, el yikabel gezeres hakosuv v'yishtaik. The Rambam is saying a pliya. Zok the Kesef Mishnah, the Beragoyla, the Taz, Sivkot and Yezayin. The Rambam learned this from Dama ben Asina. You have to give up all the money, but don't cause anguish to a parent. Pilaplay. That's the extent of Kibud Av. But we're not yet finished. The Ran then says a second teretz. Enechanami, the mitzvah of Kibud Av is Mishel Av. But when it comes to giving up a profit, he used the lashon. If it's just a harvacha ba'alma, we call that miniyas revach. If it's not losing money, achasar and kiss. If it's miniyas revach, that was Dama's psak. He wasn't losing a house. He could have made a big deal. Okay, but he gave it up. And the Ran says it's really a Gemara. And the truth is you learn the Gemara, Kedush, in the same sugi, Daf Lamed Beis. The Gemara makes the chilek between chasar and kiss and bittul malacha. Zoktem Arsham and Chayla Gimel, Skim and Kufyud Gimel. If the son has something that looks very promising, a deal, does he have to give it up for Kibud Av Avada? Let's say it's a done deal. If he makes one call, he could get the deal, but his mother needs him. Let's say it's a vada miniyas revach. Does he have to give a vada miniyas revach? Look to Masham Avada. That was the story of Dam Ben Asina. And this is the Ramah and Siv Ches. Taka Kibud Av is Mishela Av. But if it's just giving up a profit, then you have to give Kol Mamayne. So do you see what Kibud Av is? Hushva, Hedifu HaKosuv. Look what Esav and Dama did. It's a Purayin Choyv, it's Makir Toiv. Shlo Yitzayir es Abbas Kol Mamayne, Miniyas Revach Kol Mamayne. And it could even be, if Ein Loy La'ov, Machzal Apsachim. The only kula is, if the father has money, use his money. So now what I would put lamaisa is, you'll ask me, what's the nature of Kibud Av? I think it's none of the above. It's more than ben ad lamakom, more than ben. But here's the point that we have to know. There's a chiyuv to provide for a parent. If they have their money, use theirs. But the ik is, make sure the job is done. If they don't have money, even to the extent of machzal psachim. But the point is, you have to make sure your parents' needs are provided for. If they have money, gesundheit. If not, get the job done. Now, of course, we have to be inspired even from Esav and Dama and Yosef HaTzadik, and you have to tzitish lo yitzayir es Abba. But basically, the halacha is Mishel Av, and if that's not shaykh, then the son has to do what he has to do. Now let's go and apply it in various shaylas. A parent asks a child, could you go shopping for me? So the answer is avada, but he's allowed to ask his parent for the money. That's Mishel Av. In other words, next time you learn Kedushin, Kibud, what does Kibud mean? It doesn't mean that you have to pay for the food. You have to shop for them, prepare it, and if they can't feed themselves, feed them and clean up. But at the end of the day, it's their money. Now I must add, imagine this shayla. A father asks a child, can you buy me something, but I don't have money. You'll use your own money if you want. If not, you don't have to do it. Okay? Just then the mother said, can you take out the garbage? And he can't do both. Which should he do first? So Alamdin says, well, it says the father goes before the mother, right? But a big Alamdin will say, wait a minute, not this case. Because this case, my father asked me to pay my own money. I'm not mechuyev. I'm an Einer Mitzvah Isa. But taking out the garbage, I'm a Mitzvah Isa. And it's also a cheaper mitzvah, right? But let me take out the garbage. But he's wrong. Because Kiva Ega, in the Tshuva, and Simon Sam Baches, he discusses this very question. Come on. And he says that enechanami, you're not mechuyev to spend your own money. But the tzuras ha-mitzvah is Kibud Av, and if you spend your own money, it's a mitzvah kiyumis. It's not an Einer Mitzvah Isa. So in this case, if you want to spend your own money, do the father's mitzvah first, because father goes before the mother. In other words, let me explain what I mean to bring out. We always say inviting parents for Shabbos, for Yom Tov, is a mitzvah Kibud Av. Technically, you could give them the bill at the end of Yom Tov. But you don't do that. But don't think it's less of a mitzvah. The real taich of Machila Mashkeyu is make sure they have food. Take their money, buy, shop, clean, feed. But it's the same mitzvah when you're paying. So it's really a mitzvah v'oisa, do whatever you can. Ma'aseh shehaya, it's supposed to be a true story. There was a child that moved to Eretz Yisrael and never communicated with his parents, never wrote letters. This goes back years ago when people still wrote letters. Didn't write letters, he didn't call. Someone asked him, what are you, estranged from your parents? You're in a machlekes? He goes, no. But it costs money to send airmail letters, and those days phone calls was pretty expensive. Mishel Av, I don't have to pay. So Rav Sternbuch, he records this story in Chela Gimel Reish Pei Vav, and his Chas V'Shalom Leima came. He says, maybe for Kibud Av, you're potter. But Ora Makla Av V'Imay, Rashi teaches, is Mezalzel. You don't communicate with your parents. For Mezalzel, there's no cap of a Mishel Av. And then he has another svara, and he says, which is very mistavra, a small cost is not considered Mishel Bain. I mean, it is, but you have to be reasonable. You know, when a person does, he works for his parents. So a lot of physical exertion, that's also Mishel Haben. But doesn't mean that. It means if they want you to buy something, there's their money. But a small cost is understandable, you have to give. Then I saw Lahayras Nasser, I'm Lassen Gestet Nechelekei, Simon and Gimel. He has a different kinage for the same shaila. And he says that a parent that has to pay for the phone calls that you call, that's not kibud. It's bizarre. Imagine your parents' 50th anniversary, you send them a card in the mail, please pay me for the card and the stamp. You owe me $3.50. Bizarre. So he says, since the parents can't write themselves letters, that's considered ein layla of, and the son is chayiv. Whatever the case is, you don't need a svar. There has to be an understanding. A person has to have a little bit seichel. This is my parents, and the sky's the limit. But there's a ptur. But minimal cost avada is not pot. But there's another big yisoid in Mishel Av, the famous story that a yid came to Reb Chai in Briska. He lived in Brisk. His parents lived in Varsha, and he's not going to visit them because the train fare is expensive. Chaim says, you're right, you're pot to take a train. Walk. So this is called by all the paiskim, but it's an important yisoid. The ptur is Kibud Av, if they need something, they pay for it. But if you want to make Kibud Av easier for yourself, you don't want to walk to Varsha, you want to take a train. That's your convenience. I'll give you a push to the marshal. Someone is busy with a father, and he has no time. So he hires a gabbai to take care of his father, and the father has to pay. That's wrong. If it's your chiyuv to help, and you want someone to do it in your place, so that's your convenience. Or a person doesn't want to be busy with a parent, he puts them in a home, and he sends them the bill. Right, that's wrong. If he's mechuyev to provide for his parents, so he's hiring someone else to do his job. So you have to be careful. Now, understandably so, a child that moves to Eretz Yisrael, and to visit whatever is understood should visit parents, that should be Mishel Bain. Again, I don't know how many times a person has to come, but what's understandable is part of the chiyuv. Otherwise, it's Ora Makla of Ve'ima. And I knew a Yid, they told me this is at least 50 plus years ago. He lived in England. He got married to someone from Muncie, a family I know very well. Rabbi Yankov Kamenetsky was close to that family. Rabbi Yankov told him, Al Chosim, when you make your budget, see, those days people lived within a budget. Today, it's different. But make a budget, leave some part of your budget for phone calls to call your parents in England. He moved to Muncie. He still lives in Muncie, rather. To call your parents. Because it's going to be costly, but you have to call your parents. That was a tremendous insight, Yankov sensitivity. When you feel you have to spend money, it's hard. But if that's part of your budget, you have to buy food and clothing and rent and Kibud Av. That would be Mishel Haben Taka. Because you'll move from England to America, you have to call parents. Now, how often? That's that use your discretion. I guess as often as you would want your children to call you. I think that usually works pretty well. Question. A child, again, it could be an El Tazeda, gets a call from his elderly father. I heard his Bein Hazmanim. Can you send your boys to help me clean up for Pesach? And the child freezes in shock. He's waiting a whole day, a whole week for Bein Hazmanim. He needs his kids. Send them to Zaidi. So the emphasis, I saw Marshag in Chelik Bey, Simon Reish, has this very child, and he says that really the child could keep his children at home. Because that's Mishel Av. But I would just add, this is an opportunity, a golden opportunity. If you tell your children, listen, I was waiting since Chanukah for you to come home. I need you. But Zaidi calls, and Zaidi goes first. That's my father. There's nothing hard to my father. Go, that you'll make me very happy. That's going to be worth more than all the cleaning that they could do. The most effective chinuch is do as I do, not necessarily do as I say. Was tut mir nicht für Kinder, as you're doing for yourself. Now again, Lamaisa, you go first. But it's a wonderful opportunity to send your children. Now, even though you might say, but if they help me, they have a chiyuv, the mitzvah deraisa. Help the Zayda, so Avi Aviv is less of a chiyuv. But we're not talking about mitzvah, we're talking about lasting impressions. You make that statement, you'll gain a tremendous impact of Kibud Av for parents. Married women, as we know in Shulchan Aruch and Sif Yud Zayin, it says a married woman is patur from Kibud Av. I always felt that that's a form of our suga of Mishel Haben. Because if a married woman that has to take care of her husband and her children have to stop everything and run to her father, then she's giving up part of herself. Besides, of course, the shalom bayis, but the lesson is, the klal is, there's no mitzvah that's too hard. And you see how the Torah, the Rebbeinu carefully formed the mitzvah. A married woman has obligations. But, and I could say, be'ein ha're'isi, to our eternal credit, today, the most unbelievable, unfathomable Kibud Av is done by our wives, taking care of their parents, elderly parents, that don't have a moment to breathe, that have children and grandchildren and jobs, and are busy with their parents day and night. Because the mitzvah is too precious to give up. Now, I don't know if the women know Reb Kiva Islam this, but even though if they're patur, but if they do it, that's the full-fledged mitzvah. But it's very important for us as husbands to be supportive, because who else could do it but the devoted daughters. But again, the Mesiras Nefesh for parents today is mamish unbelievable. So I always think that we have an opportunity to be a Yisachar Zvulun. The wives are busy with Kibud Av, and we don't have the time so much. But they do our jobs, so whoever they're Makabi. But that's basically a Yisachar Zvulun. We're the Zvulun in this case to at least encourage our wives to be there for their parents. But it's also, trust me, a tremendous impact on the Chinuch Habonim, and don't forget the Bereshit Bleit Nishuldik. It's all a very worthwhile investment. Question, a person's at work and his mother calls, I need help. Now, it's not emergency, but she wants to come. So the emes is, this is our Gemara, this is our Sheiltis. It's only a manias revach, he could make a few more dollars, and there's no doubt about it, in that type of case, where he's not going to lose his job, he would have to close whatever he's doing and go help a parent. Now, if he's working for someone else, so it's a chav lacherim. He has to know in the Hilchos Chayshim Mishpat what to do. But if it's just his own working, so now's the time for Kibud Av. Rav Moshe, in Dibras Moshe, Simon Nun, Sikvan Chavav, I saw the Chutshani, and Amid Reish Peidal, both say, if he's going to lose his job, then that's ready, Echsar and Kiz. But on a regular basis, a parent needs you, everything stops and you go. Now, if he could send a shliach, his child, to help his parents, so as long as the job is done, that's okay. Of course, he's mitzvah bayis and b'shluchai, but in this case, there might be what to be seimach on. I had this shayla, rather, unfortunately, it's a true story. A bach was about to leave his house one day, bein hazmanim. Mother goes, where are you going? So he said, I got a job, I want to make money, bein hazmanim. Mother goes, but you weigh a whole zman, now you come to help, we need you. So, avada. That's a manias revach. What's he go? He doesn't need the money, he wants to make extra money. But then he came to me, he told me that Lamaisa, this is bein hazmanim, I'm on vacation. So I think it's the first time I wanted to smack a bacha. He's on vacation. From Kibud Av, the whole Zman, he's on vacation. Someone with that attitude probably not learning too much. But now to make up for lost time, right? Not on vacation. Okay, a more sticky question. A person had a business trip, and for Mincha and Ma'ariv, he couldn't find the minyan. He knew in advance there wouldn't be a minyan for Mincha Ma'ariv, but the rest of the time there would be. He's Tayach Shana of a parent, and he'll be denied the opportunity of saying Kaddish and being Dam Vriyamid, which is Kibud Av. Does he have to give up that opportunity? So the emes is Mechabde b'moise, according to many poskim, is a deraisa. Also, this is a real McCoy Ein Law of. The parent is waiting. Shikme Peklach, the Kaddish, the Kedusha, the davening is what's most desperate and most needed for parents. And but what's interesting, I found the Chazoin Nachum in the Chuvas Kuf Yud Ches, the father of the Chibina Rav. He has this shaila, but it's much more serious. Where a son whose Tayach Shana works in a forest. I don't know what exactly he was doing, but he doesn't ever daven with minyan except for Shabbos. So he says there. First, he starts with why taka that Kibud Av has more of a chiyuv than any other mitzvah, more than a chaimish. And his answer is Adarabah. That's exactly what it is. Because it's more than Kibud Kvayt HaMakom. But he says, in this particular case, he says maybe you could rely on the sheet as Mechabde b'moisa, he's only midrabanan. And also saying Kaddish or Daven Riyamid is only a minig. I don't know why he's so makel. But at the end of the day, he says, since you tell me you pay someone to say Kaddish and Daven Riyamid on your behalf, so it's good enough. So he starts off with saying how it's much more than any other chiyuv, but I guess the end of the day, if he has no panos, he has no panos. I saw a number of poskim discuss a tragic but a very inspiring shaila. A parent is of need of a kidney transplant, and the child, typically, is a very compatible match. Does he have to give up a kidney for a parent? So the emes is, this is most literally Mishel Habein. He's giving a shtik zich. And that's why I saw the Evan Yisrael, Yanka Fisher, and the Chuvas Chelik Ches Kufay. He says, since the Chiyuv is not Mishel Habein, and this is much more Mishel Habein, it would be Potter. Now, Lamaisa, the parents Ein Loi, they don't have, they need a kidney. But the emes is, it could be Pashit. Ein Loi is a Chiyuv Tzedakah. Tzedakah, there's no chiyuv to give up a kidney. And even if Ein Loi is a chiyuv al Kibud Av, but that means to give money. But we don't find you have to give a piece of oneself. But equally so, today when it is much, much more safe to give a kidney, a child that gives a kidney is doing an incomparable mitzvah. I mean, the mitzvah is a mitzvah kiyumist when he decides to give it. And taka people have done it, and they just feel the rest of their life that someone's alive because of them. So it's definitely a irresistible offer. But I saw one of the Heintige Poskim has interesting ha'ara. A son said he wanted to give his parent a kidney on one condition. He wants to keep the kidney for himself, but he's giving it as a loan to his parent. Now, why does he want to do that? He wants to pull it out one day. No, because he wants to have a constant mitzvah of giving to the parent. So I saw this in the Chuvas Mishnah's Koy and Siman Lamadal. He has a bunch of studim that it doesn't work. You can't give something and take it back. By Sefer Torah, you give it a loan. What bothered me is, what he's doing is, he's taking the mitzvah of Kibud Av and making it into an investment. Like he wants to, like, parent, you're my cheftzah mitzvah, and I want to maximize on you. It's not the attitude. The attitude is, with pleasure. Plus, that tshuva proves that you can't do such a thing, you can't give, and that you can't take back. But I think a better attitude, what I once saw of Zilberstein, he said he had a machlokes between two brothers. Now, unfortunately, that's not uncommon. But this was not your typical machlokes. Their aged mother that needed a kidney, and one brother says, I want to give the kidney to the mother. Why you? Because I'm a Bechor, and a Bechor has the right. The younger brother says, what are you talking about? Where does Bechor have to do with giving a kidney? The mother stays in my house, and I'm a bar metzra. The older brother says, what does bar metzra have to do with giving a kidney? And I read this, I said to myself, Rabbi Einstein, where'd you get such children? They're fighting over giving a parent a kidney. That's a healthy attitude. But anyhow, getting back, the point is that there is a cap of Mishel Habein. That's the extent of the chiyuv. A very sticky issue, and I'm in yeshiva, and it's more sticky than you believe, is when a bacha, he started a shidduch, or whatever the case is, and somehow him and his parents are not on the same page, and he wants to finalize the shidduch, and his parents don't want. So this is a famous marik in Siman Kuf Samach Vav. He has 3 reasons that the child does not have to listen to the parent. One of them is this giving up a shidduch is Mishel Habein, our sugya. And the Ramah in the very end of Reish Mem quotes this lalach. But I have a list of many Gedolei Olam that say all the same, bepeh malei, it might be al pi halacha muta, but we don't do such things. First of all, maybe the parent is right. Children think not only that they're smarter than their parents, they're even older. So they have more experience, but we know the truth. So sometimes the child is off. But let's say he knows what he's talking about. Rav Shach said, and I saw this in Mevakshei Torah, Reish Mem Heishin Lamadalad, Shlem Zalman Oyebach, the Shevet HaLevi, and Chelik Beis, Kufir Aleph, they all 3 say, we don't do such a thing. Stop, ask a gadol, talk it over, but to stop, ignore parent, and the way Rav Shach put it, for the rest of life, what are you going to excommunicate your parents? You're marrying with someone they don't want? So again, like everything else, it has to be guidance, but the 4 in front of our minds, you're marrying someone your parents don't want. I mean, I sometimes tell Baruch, even Esav wouldn't do that. They got scared. I said, I'll explain you. Esav, in the darkest moment, wouldn't be Mitzayer a parent. But let's be more positive. The Orcha Sadikim, which is one of the Rishonim, writes in Shar HaRotzon, why was Yaakov Zoicha Telechtiga Shiftei Ka? Because he listened to his mother's advice regarding shidduchim. So he spells it out. So that's certainly the Midah Toiva. And remember, Habolatayim B'Sayin said the Baruch bleibt nicht schuldig. Waking up a parent is our sugya mamish. Look what Dama ben Sina did was Ma'aseh Nefesh. But the emphasis in halacha, it seems that if you are certain the parent will want to be awoken, either because they're going to be happy that you made so much money, or they want to make it to the shir, to Shachris, Man Krishma. Already the Sefer Chassidim and Shin Lamed Zayin, and this is echoed by the Chayodim and Samach Zayin Yud Aleph. If you are certain the parent would want to be awoken, then you're supposed to wake them up. Zok Rav Moshe in the Dibros in Kedus that I mentioned earlier. So Dama ben Sina's father didn't want his child to make so much money. So he says, must be that he wasn't Shafu B'daita. He wasn't all there. He was insane. So it makes it even more unbelievable. Because sometimes you have to deal with a parent that's not Shafa B'daita. But even Dam and Sina no, don't be Mitzayah a parent. Calling parents late at night is an ava. Even if one parent is always up, but there's always one parent sleeping. And even a suffix, if they're going to wake up a parent, is a suffix deraisa. So again, approach with great caution, but if you are convinced the parent would want to they should wake them up, then you could. I tell the Bacham, but your father promised to take you to yeshiva, and now he fell asleep on the couch, so have an eitz of you. Walk to yeshiva. Nothing will happen. They'll wake up a parent because he promised, but if he's sleeping, be very careful to wake up a parent. a danger spot, especially in our Dor of Achshadara, a very delicate situation when a child has a chumrah and the parents are not happy about it. So now we're talking about what caused in Ruchnius. So everybody knows the Gemara in Yivamas Daf Hey Abeis, the Mechabit in Reish Mem Teis Vav. If the parent tells you Lav Divrei Torah, whether it's the Raisa and even a Derabanan, you're not allowed to listen to a parent. But look at the way the Gemara says that Yachal Yishmalai, you might listen to them. Talmud Laim is Xeris HaKosiv. Please, the father is tell you, you're Kohen, go into Beis HaKvaris. Don't return Aveda. Yachal Yishmalai? Why Lishmalai? Teretz Shalai Yitzayir Abba is rule number one. You need Xeris HaKosiv to say, not to listen. But what all the Paiskim agree across the board, this Yachal, this Maskana is a Deraisa or even a Derabanan. But if it's only a hidur, then I've had hidurim a chashiv. A minig is very chashiv. But to say no to a parent, Kibud Av is more important. I want to read you the lashon of the Shulchan Aruch Arizal. Obviously, Arizal was Arizal. In Siman Peiches, they write that Moiri Makbid B'chol Koichai, even when he was terribly sick to go to mikvah, even though the tefillah was mazekes ma'oid, but he never missed. But one winter, it seemed like the whole winter, his mother told him because he was sick not to go to the mikvah, and he didn't go once the entire winter. And on the bottom it says, even for Tfilas Ezra. I can't explain that. But I do see what it means, Kibud Av. But the reason was Ma'aseh Nefesh for mikvah, but now we realize that his shlichus is to Ma'aseh Nefesh for Kibud Av. The story is quoted in the Kinyan Torah, Chelik Beis, Peizayim. Shalom Belza was sitting with his mother Pesach by night, and she put matzah into the hot soup. And then after she ate it, she shifted it to him. Now, what would the average person do who's Ma'aseh Nefesh on gebrukt? So the question is, throw out the mother first or the soup first out the window? Both for sure, right? You know what the Belzer ever did? He ate in the soup. Because gebrukt is a minig and Kibud Av is a deraisa. I could go on, but the point is, it's priorities. But a little more sensitive sometimes. I saw in the Mabakshei Torah, Amud Reish Ayin Aleph, a Bacha told the Chazinish Lefi Tumai that when he comes on Bein Ezmanim, he has a challenge because his mother Nebel doesn't cover her hair. So when he benches and he makes a brach, he turns around and faces the wall when he benches. And the Chazanish get terribly angry at him. So what are you doing? You're mavazi your mother. Why don't you learn halacha? If you close your eyes or look in the siddur, that's good enough. Now sometimes it's not even a frumkeit. It's a krumkeit. You know, lo yamar it's chassid. So what I tell the bachim, and to whom may concern, to metzayer a parent, you have to have a heter meir rabbanim. But at least a heter of someone that understands the story. The starting point, shleitzayers abes kol mamoinei. And even for a hidur, there's no heter. So you have to know if you think this case is different, you have a heter. But the starting point is shleitzayers abba, even Esav HaRasha wouldn't do. The Chidah and Shirei Brachas in Reish Mem Aleph. It's on the page. He quotes a Zoya. Why was Rachel Imeinu punished that she didn't have Nachas children? She didn't see Yosef to go to the chuppah. She didn't see Binyamin. She died at childbirth. So Zok Zoya because she was Metzayer, her father, when she stole the Trafim. It's Pilaploya. She stole the L'Shem Shamayim. And look at the punishments. Her pa once told me, Enochanayim L'Shem Shamayim, but it didn't work. So she should have asked the Shaila, should you do that? There's no klal, but the klal is Shleitzayer's Abba should be unthinkable. Rav Shach was once approached by a younger man. His father had just died, and it was the first Yom HaNoroyim, and his mother wanted that this younger man should daven with her in the local shtibel. And he davened in Panovich all the years, and for him, not davening yeshiva was b'koach nefesh. Should he listen to his mother? Rav Shach says, listen to me. Try to work it out with your mother. But if not, remember the words of the Medrash in Devarim Rabbah Dalet Hey. Oma Kadosh Baruch Hu, Shimuli, She'ein Adam She'meya Li Umafsid. You never, ever, ever lose by doing the Ratzon Hashem, and especially the Ratzon Hashem of Kibud Av. Hedifu HaKadosh Baruch Hu Kvaydai. So the klal is you never lose and you won't lose. Now I hear, unfortunately, sometimes parents complain about children, and they're right. He has a chumrah that's getting them nervous, and it's not right. A child has to know. Sometimes he's doing something that even Esav doesn't know. I just had the other day The parents beg a child not to smoke or not to vape or both. I don't know if you know what vape is, better you don't know. And he says, no, but this is Michelle Ben because it's too hard for me. Second time I wanted to patch someone. It's too hard for you not to destroy yourself. I punked in the Sefer Lulei Sarascha, what I mentioned earlier from Rav Shach, in Amud Kuf Samach Gimel, he has Mama's Shaila. The father told the son to stop smoking, and he refused to listen. So Rav Shach said, what do you mean you don't listen? He says, let me tell you something, I smoked. And he got very sick, he had a surgery, and it was much harder to stop smoking than the surgery and all the Yisurim. But I would do it 1,000 times for a parent. That's Das Torah. So basically, we have to know that it's an opportunity. Now, the same thing is true. A parent asks a child to do something that's difficult. Doesn't cost money, but it's difficult. So here we have the halacha that you have to do it. Now, someone said, Ptur mitztayer. I said, that's for sukkahs. Nothing to do with here. But for Kibud Av, like every other mitzvah from Tzara Agra. Now, the point is that it has to be a ptur, otherwise it's a chiyuv. We had a shaila once where someone had a problem with a parent and he wanted to talk over Adam Gadol Lashon Hara L'Te'eles. The question is there a het Lashon Hara L'Te'eles about a parent? So it's a good question because the Chavetz Chaim says when a person talks bad about a parent is also or a makla of a ve'imoy. But the emes is if he's doing it for Te'eles to get out of the trouble, so Te'eles is not Lashon Hara. I talk a story of the Chut Shani of when the Skarelitz Amud Reish Peidal says if you're choosing your words carefully and you're doing it to get out of a problem, there would be a het Lashon Hara L'Te'eles. A son's a big masmid, and we have this all the time. Today it's a wonderful ach shadora. Comes bein azmanim, and he has no time to help. He has to go learn. I'm not talking about someone that wants to sleep late to make money. He wants to go learn. So he comes to mind the Gemara Megillah Tez Zayin Beis. Gadol Talmud Torah Yaisim Kibud Av. That's Gepaskin. That's a whole Sif and Shulchan Aruch, Sif Yud Gimel. Talmud Torah Gadol Kibud Av. But it can't be. Kipshutei. Do you think Rav Shimon Yochai was part of Kibud Av? The Teretz is up to Pesachei Tshuva on that Mechab according to Pichadash. That Gemara is talking in the context of Yaakov, who left his parents to go learn Shem Ve'eva, and at that point he was an oinus. He couldn't do Kibud Av. But what was the heter to put yourself in an oinus to be denied the opportunity of Kibud Av? That is Gadol Kibud Av. The Talmud Torah used to be Kibud Av. But Zok the Pesachei Tshuva, if you're in the city and the parents call you and need help, so now you have to stop learning and start living your learning. You have to start living Torah that Amanas Lasais. And Rabbi Yashiv says this clearly in the Merhav Kibud Amad Chav Dalid, and it's Pashit. Now is the time to live the Torah you're learning, and you have to know Amanas Lasais. And do it besimcha. I always pointed out that we well know that Klal, the Gemara says you could do the best mitzvah, but if you do it grudgingly, it's worth nothing. But if you do it besimcha, then it's a valuable mitzvah. What's the makar of that? Kedush in the end of Lamed Aleph regarding Kibud Av. Why? Because that's where it counts most. Parents don't like to be a Rachmanis case, a Nebuchal, a Tzedakah case. You need my help? Okay, I'm coming. That's the way you respond to a parent. Kibud Av, more than anything, has to have the shleimus, the simcha. And for those masmidim that are uncertain about what I'm telling you, look up Archas Rabbeinu Chela Gimel Amud Kuf Ches. Reb Chaim Kanievsky was made. Chazon Ish's mother lived a long time. So if you met, she lived in Bnei Brak. The Chazon Ish at the time was already an Ish Zaken. He was a Choyle Kol Yama, but he was Choyle then also. And yet every day, if Chaim was made, he would walk on the unpaved, unfinished roads of Bnei Brak from the early 50s, late 40s, and took a long time to get there and spend a half hour or more every day talking with his mother, Dvarim Shel Mabakach. He didn't talk about a Tifa Yisoid in the Mishnah Olas, guarantee. Now, the Chazon Ish redefined Hasmada and gave new meaning to Kol Torah Kula, but he had a balance. So, and that's taka why we have to really have that Mishkala Chasidus. Ben Azmanim's a time to be there for parents. And the sequel of the story is, the Chazon Ish was once visited by a group of Cheder Yinglach, and the Chazon Ish was in a very good mood. So the Rebbe decided to ask the brave question, why were you zoich to come to Chazon Ish? And he answered without flinching. He says, the schus of my Kibud Av. So the Barshlam Blight in the shoulder, Kol Shemeili, Einay Mafsid. There's a few quick questions I wanted to mention because each one really should be a share for itself, but it's part of our sugya, so at least I'm going to mention it. The question is, of course, what does it mean that a parent ain't loy? He doesn't have. I mean, today, unfortunately, parents get older and they have no money left. So it's noteworthy what that means. The Shulchan Aruch says in Sif Hey, if the parent doesn't have, koifen oisei v'zon aviv. You have to force the child. The Rashban Chelik Zayin Tofnan Aleph, he says, Alosh lev zoisei ulachlima b'beis HaKnesses v'koifen lazim mishaloi midin tzedakah. Now, it's unusual. If he's potter, why do you embarrass him in Beis Medrash? Because now is the time to be there for parents, unconditionally. But what's noteworthy, the Ramah in this Sif Hey quotes a Tosefta, it's also a Gemara Kedush, that says, really, when a person has a poor parent, he could use tzedakah money to support his parent. But Tavei Me'ira, l'mishma fainus of Me'moi tzedakah shalai. Now it's a pliya. If he's allowed to do, what does it mean Tavei Me'ira? You know what the point is? You have a terrible lack of priorities. You're making your father, your mother, a tzedakah case. But don't think it means you're giving them money that says in it, charity. I saw the Shura Shai, the Tzitz Eliezer, Rabbi Yashiv all say, even if the parents don't know where the money's coming from, but it's a bizayin for you. Your parents are tzedakah case. If you can't give your own money, there's something wrong with your attitude. So look at the complete change. There's a Ptur, Michel Bain. But when need be, Michel Bain, and you can't even use tzedakah money. Because the attitude is, Kol Yigiyas Sheyagu, my parents did for me, and that was Kol Kavah V'chol Teyelis. And this you could understand, I guess, the next shiloh, which is share for itself. When a child wants to move away, yes, he found a job, whatever, he found a house, leaving his parents behind. So basically, if they don't need him, so Avada he could go and visit and call and etc. But let's say they need him. So by Yashiv and Meir Harim Kibud, it's Amid Yud Gimel, says he has to be one of 4 conditions you're allowed to move away from parents. Either he doesn't have a job here, but he has a job elsewhere. So that's not a question of Minias Revach, that's considered Panasa. Or his health, he has to move away. Or for the Chinuch Habanim that he doesn't have here. Or Al Shalom bayis. But even then, when he's allowed to move away, he can't leave them without help, some type of plan. The point is that this has to be part of our budget, to be there for parents. Yaakov Avinu was punished for 22 years when he wasn't learning, even though he went b'reshus of his parents. A more sticky question, when parents get old, they can't be alone. Take them into your own home, send them to a facility. So that's not a regular achas, but I think what I could say a regular achas is, they asked Reb Chaim, and this is in Derech Sicha Amid Reish Peites, so he said it's very easy to decide this question. What you would want your children to do to you, do for your parents. So then he said, but is there a klal? He said, yeah. If Khalila wouldn't be a parent, I don't say Khalila, but if it would be your own child, would you put them in a facility? So he told this to Rabbi Yashiv, he said, Reb Chaim is wrong. Because you have more of a chiyuv to a parent than a child. But the attitude is, what to do. I've told people more than once, why don't you join the thousands of Giborei Koyach, of these Malachei Rachamim parents, I'm talking about children, who are great-grandparents, Be'ener Isi, who have room in their hearts and their minds for parents. They take them in, I don't know how they do it. They're busy with children and grandchildren, and even great-grandchildren, but they have enough time for parents. Why don't you join the heroes of Klal Yisrael? Now, but at least to the next question, let's say it's a sticky issue because it disturbs the shalom bayis. So first of all, we have to realize one thing. Avad is not going to be like a regular guest. It's not going to be easy. But it's not potter if it's not easy. If you could make it work, ashreichem. I mean, it's having a gem and a diamond in your house. Pelioitz writes twice. His people spend so much on schools, but the biggest school is a parent. It's an opportunity. But if Lamaisa you try and it can't work out, so Taka, I have a whole list, if you want to see it, that Taka Shalom Bayis comes first. But very often it doesn't have to be that. Very often you can make it a joint effort. You'll learn Hilchas Kibud Av, the halacha, the ashkafa, and maybe Taka is a chiyuv to extend yourself. But the point is, Rabbi Chaim's Yisoid, what a person expects from his own children one day, if it's hopefully not be negeya, but that's a fair gauge. And achrein chav, maybe achrein hichbid, I would be remiss in not mentioning this point because it really makes the rest of the share really work. You know, we sometimes see the American culture is kabid as bincha ves bitecha. Unfortunately, it's a world that the father is the car service and the mother is the maid and the cook and the bus boy, bus girl, I don't know how you call it, but the parents are serving children, which of course is the very antithesis of a kol Torah kula. But Rabbi say you have to know one thing. In halacha, there is an halacha, there's one halacha of kabid as binchas bitecha. And that really makes Kibud Av work. And that's the mechaba in Reish Mem Yutes. Asa la'adam lahachbid ulay al banav. Uldagdik b'chvoidai. A parent cannot be too overbearing, too domineering, and too demanding. Why? Because if you tell a child to do something and he doesn't listen, then you're being machshel him in the issa chamura of kabid esabicha v'simecha. And the next sif the mechaba is, if a person hits a child, and the child will react or might react, he's oiva on the fneiva. Now, instead of doing a mitzvah, it's an issa fneiva. So a parent that has an unreasonable demand of a child is oiva on an issa of machbid ulay and the fneiva. Now, I'm not talking about the parent is telling the child do something that is wrong for the parent to do. Lava the Torah. That's sif tezayin. I'm talking about when the parent has a full right to ask for something. L'mashal, unfortunately this is common today when we have children that are slipping, whether it's boys or girls, and parents decide to give musa, but there's a mitzvah to give musa, but a mitzvah shaloi loim b'davar she'ein nishma. And then you have something that destroys any relationship that's going to save the child. A person has to choose his battles. Now, not only is that an issa, but it's lefneiva. Now, lemaisa, this is not kabid es bincha. This is kabed the Torah Kedosha. Kibud Av is a wonderful mitzvah that has to work. And when a person asks unreasonable, let's say it's not even a child that's slipping, a parent that likes to give advice, how to raise the einiklach. So let me tell you, there's no chiv on a zayda to mechanech his children. Now, I'm going to tell you, I'm a parent and a grandparent. I have all the negiyas that you have, but I see the truth. It doesn't work. You know, unless the child asks you for advice, let them do what they want. A great mechanech said, to be a zayda, you have to be a little blind, deaf, and dumb. He's right. Because you want it to work, stay out of their business. You think you're right? Okay. But lamaisa, that might be, this is Kibud Av. That's destroying Kibud Av. Chazenish and Chayla Gimel Kufal Amadal. This is so uncharacteristic. He says, if you want to ask something from someone else, measure what you're asking. I say, what do I care? If he says no is no, or did you lose? Because he's angry, why'd you ask? You're angry, why he doesn't listen? And he says, a person that asks too much is a soina and a sonui. Slushim. But that's so much more true in Kibud Av. You know, Rav Zilberstein, the Edom of Rav Yashiv, is made, his shver, Rav Yashiv never said the words, do me something, get me something. He always put it in a voluntary way at most. But again, I'm not advocating kadbet is bin chas v'shalom. But look at the mitzvah of Kibud Av, how Chazal, the Baruch Shalom, made it workable. There's no chiyah b'shel bein because that's too hard to do. Even though we'd say, what do you mean it's too hard to do? I gave you your whole life. You can't spend money for me? But don't make something that's tempting. P'tor of Isha Nesua is to make it workable. But sometimes Kibud Av has to, not sometimes, always, Kibud Av has to have a joint effort. The parents know what to ask, what not to ask, then the children will respond. But basically the point is, the Rebbe Shalom gave us a mitzvah yikar, it has to work. And let me be Messiah, b'davar toiv, and maybe this is another understanding of it. The Tanad Bel in Perik Chavav, kol mavakish yomim v'shonim, v'oishe v'chavoid, v'chayim arukim ba'olam hazeh u'ba'olam haba. Hear that? Chayim she'ein lam soif, v'kaitz, v'tachlis, Yases etzayin ovav shebashemayim, v'etzayin ovav v'imay. So avodah the pashat b'shad is, you want all this, do Kibud Av. But last night it occurred to me, maybe there's a little more oimik to this. He's talking to both parts of Kibud Av, the parents and the child. First we talk to the parent. You want chayim, oish, and all that. Yases etzayin ovav shebashemayim. You have to follow hilchis kibud b'nai ubitay. You have to look at Siman Yutes, Siman Chaf, Siman Tezvav, Siman Tezayin, what you're not supposed to do. If you do your part, then the son will do Ritzayin Ava V'imai, and all of us, Be'ez Hashem, will be Zaycha to Yamim V'shanim V'Aish V'chaved V'chayam Aruchim B'Olam Hazeh B'Olam Haba.
Shem Egan should like to thank Rav Smith for today's shir. Also like to remind them that every year the shul has an appeal. My schitim for the mishpachas that can't afford to make Pesach. The credit card machine, whoever we mishtatev. The big mitzvah of Kimcha de Pesach. After the Kaddish, Smith will say a sikim of the shir. Chananya ben Akasha Emer Shakadosh Baruch Hu Lezakis. As the shir will figure here in Torah Mitzvah Shem Adonai Chofes Amad Tzidkei Yagdol Torah V'Yader. Okay, but it's not necessary to stand up or remain standing, but the sikim on Kibud Av.
Just let's chazal we learned today. There's no doubt about it. Kibud Av is an unparalleled chiyuv, more than B'Adam L'Chaveroi, more than B'Adam L'Makayim, even Machzal Psachim, Hishva, Hadifa Kadosh Baruch Hu. And to emphasize that, we saw the mysterious nefesh of Esav HaRasha, the Kibud Av, the Asay Toiv of being Moise Nefesh on a constant basis, the Yisur Meirah, Shalitzah Yerusaba, look at Dama Ben Asinas, giving up Hahoin Rav for a tsar, for waking up a parent. At least we should be Makir Toiv. We can't be Mashlim Toiv, at least Makir Toiv. And Lamaisa, at the end of the day, it's a very limited chiyuv, Mishal Av. Unless it's B'niyas Revach, or tsar for the parent, or the parent doesn't have, but the Torah made it workable. You don't have to give, even though Seichel will say, why don't you give a parent from your own? But that's what the Debar wanted. But make sure the job gets done. That's why if the parent doesn't have, the child would even have to go collecting, because it's the responsibility of the child to be there for the parent. It's a small cost for such a precious mitzvah, but I must mention a small cost taka would be Mishel HaBein, that taka we saw. If it's a bezoyan to charge the parent, there's also a chiyuv, and if it's making the son easier to hire help, then the son has to pay. That would be Mishel HaBein. To send a child to help a Zayda is not a chiyuv, but it's definitely advisable. A married woman is officially potter, but it's a wonderful course that they're busy with parents. To stop working because the parent calls for help, he should be stop working unless he could send a shliach. Kibud Av, with Kaddish, there is a tzad to be makel, as we saw when he can't say Kaddish. I always think people are so moist in nefesh for that year to get the Amid every single day in Kaddish. And what about when the parents are alive? It's the same mitzvah, maybe more so. But anyhow, giving a kidney to a parent is a great schus, but to fight over the schus to give it and not make conditions that you want to keep it. A shidduch, today we listen to parents, or shelas chacham, certainly waking up, if that's the ratzon of the parents. So we saw the biggest hider in Kibud Av is to follow, is outweighs any other hider, and therefore, even though you're not allowed to listen to a parent when they're lava de Torah, but for hider, we listen to a parent, not to be a victim of shleitzayir es abba, Adam Shemeli Umafsid, and even if it's hard, that's what Eis Van Dama inspired us. Lashon Hara Te'elas on a parent is mutter if we choose our words. What definitely we saw to stop learning to help a parent, that's Aleph Beis, that's learning Almanas Lasois, do it Besimcha. A child should not use tzedakah money to support a parent because it's not a tzedakah case, it's his own chiyuv. Moving away from an older parent or where to place a parent is a shelas chacham to know the whole picture. If it disturbs the shalom bayis is first and most important. As parents, we have to make it work, and b'nei u'manei will both be zayich d'arichas yamin. Yes.